Today, we're going to be going over each martial art and who the best UFC fighter is at that specific martial art. I'm not talking about using the martial art in UFC. I'm talking about the pure martial art. So if these guys were to go over into that martial art, who would be the best? That being said, let's get into the first one. We're going to go into boxing. And I think the clear answer for boxing is Ilia Topuria. It just is. When you think of how he boxes, a lot of these guys that are, some of the best boxers in the UFC don't box the same way Topuria does. Ilia Topuria, he has his hands up high, up by his face. He's slipping punches. He's throwing tight combinations to the body, to the head. I think he's the closest thing to a pure boxer, and I think he's the best at it. I think you could say a close second would be Dustin Poirier, but Dustin Poirier doesn't have the same type of head movement. He doesn't do a lot of slipping, or at least not that much in comparison to Ilia Topuria, but the offense of Dustin Poirier is the thing that makes him a close second because, most of his combinations are legit boxing combinations. Nothing's sloppy, nothing's loose. This isn't like Nate Diaz throwing his shit combinations. This is Dustin Poirier throwing clean, crisp boxing combinations. But I have Ilia Topuria at, the best pure boxer in the UFC right now. Petr Yan is kind of close too, but, same goes for Petr Yan. His defense is more like Muay Thai in my opinion. But let's go on to wrestling. This is the big one. This is the big controversial one. I have Bo Nickal at wrestling. I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, put Hamzat at wrestling, put Hamzat at wrestling. If we're talking about pure wrestling, okay, how could you not put Bo Nickal at pure wrestling? We're talking about not how well they use it in the UFC. Well, that can be part of it, how you judge them, but how well they would do in the actual sport or martial art. And we can just tell by resume that Bo Nickal is the better wrestler. He's achieved much more than Hamzat Chimaev. Hamzat Chimaev, Swedish champion, impressive, but Bo Nickal is just another level. Like, this is probably one of the biggest prospects we've seen come, other than Henry Cejudo, Yoel Romero, guys like that, Olympic champions or Olympic contenders. Bo Nickal is the best wrestler in the UFC right now. Pure wrestling, it's got to go to Bo Nickal, even though he doesn't really show it. And, it's weird because he's such a great wrestler. But once he gets into the UFC, once he gets into a UFC fight, his wrestling just goes fucking down. Like, he's so not confident in it. And I think it's probably because of the Jiu Jitsu aspect. If we're talking about grapplers, I think Hamzat Chimaev is the much better grappler. But pure wrestling, I think it's Bo Nickal all day. Now we have kickboxing. And I think there's one clear answer for kickboxing, and it's Alex Pereira. This dude literally was a kickboxer and one of the best kickboxers, honestly, like, of all time. Like, when we think about it, this dude is the first ever Glory double champ, right? He was 2 divisions, double champion. He defended his belt like 6 times or something. So we've seen his actual work in action, right? This isn't like a theory. This isn't like Ilia Topuria going into boxing. There could be better boxers in the UFC that would do better in boxing. This is just pure resume, kind of like Bo Nickal. We've seen Pereira in kickboxing and he kicked ass. So I got to put Pereira in kickboxing and just what you see from, his fights, it kind of proves how good of a kickboxer he is. It's funny because kickboxing, the kickboxing with Alex Pereira transitioned much better than Bo Nickal's wrestling. And I think, honestly, that's because kickboxing is a better thing to have as a specialist than just pure wrestling. Because wrestling, you also need chokes and other aspects, where it's kickboxing, you can just basically fight like how you did in Glory and do just fine. So you have that entire aspect already covered, whereas wrestling, it's kind of like, there's some other things you need to know. There's different types of takedowns that are better in the UFC. So I got Pereira at kickboxing. I think this is a no-brainer. The only person that could come close is like maybe Adesanya, but we look at Adesanya and he got nowhere near to becoming a champion in Glory or anything like that. There's Dustin Jacoby, but he got flatlined by Alex Pereira in Glory. So it's like all these dudes that were kickboxers either fought Pereira or got nowhere near to where Pereira, accomplished, right? Israel Adesanya got knocked out by Alex Pereira. Dustin Jacoby got knocked out by Alex Pereira. Those were all the Glory guys that I know of that are in the UFC right now. And they lost to Alex Pereira. And the ones that I'm assuming, if there are any more people in Glory in the UFC right now that were in Glory now in the UFC, I don't think they probably accomplished anywhere near what Alex Pereira did. So I think Alex Pereira is a clear kickboxing, the best at kickboxing. We're going to move on to Muay Thai now. Muay Thai is hard because there's never been someone great at Muay Thai, world renowned, that's transitioned to the UFC that I know of. But I do have someone in mind. He's been training in Thailand recently. He trains at Tiger Muay Thai, I'm pretty sure, a lot for his training camps. And it's Petr Yan. The more you look at Petr Yan's striking, the more it's it's really a Muay Thai style. Charles Oliveira, he's close to being on this list for best transition into Muay Thai, but I think it's actually Petr Yan, because this dude's actually training, with Muay Thai guys, right? He trains at Tiger Muay Thai. I'm pretty sure that's the place a lot. I see on his Instagram story, he's basically there for every training camp. He has the perfect style for it. Like, he fights exactly how these Muay Thai guys fight. He shells up, the way he throws punches. He's not afraid to eat punches. He's not afraid to block punches. He's durable. And I think those are the things you need for Muay Thai. And I think Petr Yan, he's extremely technical. He also has the boxing too. I think that would give him an advantage in Muay Thai. Because that's something he has over some of these Muay Thai guys, is higher level boxing, right? He doesn't just have the Muay Thai, and Muay Thai is just, stand up basically. So if you have a good Muay Thai base and then you have all this other stuff, it's just only going to help you. So I think Petr Yan would do the best in Muay Thai. Onto Judo, we have Islam Makhachev. Okay, and I know what a lot of you guys are probably thinking right now. Kayla Harrison. That Kayla Harrison dude was fucking Olympic champion, bro, at Judo. But from what I've seen, in my humble opinion, I've seen more impressive judo throws from Islam Makhachev in fights. And I know it's saying who would do the best in that specific sport of judo, and Kayla Harrison achieved Olympic gold. So what the fuck am I talking about? But Islam Makhachev, we're not talking about pound for pound, okay? We're talking about just skill. She's like, okay, let's be real, guys. She's competing, like, men's judo is definitely more competitive. I think we can all agree about that. Just because she's Olympic champion and Islam Makhachev wasn't, Islam Makhachev to be Olympic champion in judo is much harder. And we've never seen him really in the sport of judo, but we don't know how far he could go. And I think he could achieve, I think he's at the higher skill level. Maybe, maybe not. This is kind of, a little bit of a stretch. The limit's different for, certain weight classes and certain men's and women's divisions. I've always thought this, that Islam Makhachev's one of his best parts of his game is his judo, right? Or at least, not all of his trips and throws are judo, but the ones that are, they're really good and they work all the time. We've seen him do it to practically everyone. We've seen Charles Oliveira. He throws Charles Oliveira. He throws Arman Sarukian in their first fight. He does it to basically everyone, right? He's not much of a person to shoot in on somebody unless it's like a later round against Dustin Poirier, when they're tired. He likes to get people up against the fence. He likes to grab them, overhook, underhook, and he likes to trip them. Or throw them, or both, So I'm putting Islam Makhachev at judo. He might not be as skilled as Kayla Harrison, but from what I've seen in the octagon, I'm extremely impressed by Islam Makhachev's judo. Kayla Harrison has great judo too, but I've just seen more from Islam Makhachev and I've been more impressed by it, but on to Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. This one was hard because, there's a lot of dudes who do BJJ, but the person that I have to go with, I'm doing this based off resume, based off the quantity of wins by submission. I'm going with Charles Oliveira. I know that might seem like a casual thing. Oh, Gilbert Burns, bro. ADCC fucking champion or whatever he did. Charles Oliveira and Gilbert Burns, when you look at each of their performances, you can clearly tell, who's using it more effectively. Gilbert Burns does not use his jiu-jitsu nearly as well. And that leads me to believe that, Charles Oliveira would do better in jiu-jitsu. If he focused all his energy on actually jiu-jitsu, I think he could be better, do better in the sport, Even though Gilbert Burns has achieved a lot, I'm going to go with Charles Oliveira because of all the chokes he has. Technically he might not be at the level of Gilbert Burns, but he's a UFC fighter. They're both UFC fighters, but Gilbert Burns started off actually competing in jiu-jitsu. Maybe Charles Oliveira competed in jiu-jitsu. Maybe I don't know about that. But I think that Charles Oliveira would do better in jiu-jitsu if that's all he did. And Gilbert Burns, if that's all he did, I think Charles Oliveira would reach a higher level. That's all I'm saying. So I have Charles Oliveira there. We've seen all the chokes that he has. We've seen Gilbert Burns on the ground. When you see Gilbert Burns on the ground, he does not look anywhere near of what his resume says he is. And I think that's because it's one of those things, if you don't use it, you lose it, right? You see guys with wrestling, it's kind of like Yoel Romero. The dude was an Olympic champion, but he doesn't fucking use it in the UFC. And you can kind of see that dude doesn't look like an Olympic champion, or not Olympic champion, Olympic bronze medalist. I think that's what he was. He doesn't look like that. He has great scrambles, but you don't see him like some powerhouse taking people down, because I think he chooses to strike more. He probably trains striking more because that's his weakness. And because of that, the thing that they started off with, the special ability that they had, kind of dwindles a little bit. So I'm putting Charles Oliveira at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I think that he would do the best in BJJ. I can't think of anybody else in the UFC right now that would do better or is higher level than Charles Oliveira. Like, I can't really think of anybody other than Charles Oliveira. That's the clear person that pops into my head. But let me know what you guys think about this. Would you change any of these? I think there's some that could be changed. I think the Judo Islam Makhachev, you know, you could put Kayla Harris in there. Maybe the Muay Thai. Maybe there's some other people at Muay Thai that could do better. But for boxing and wrestling, Topuria in boxing, Bo Nickel in wrestling, and Alex Pereira in kickboxing, those things, those are locks. I don't think you can change those. Let me know what you guys think about this. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. If you guys like this video, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one.